at a
So this is Tanya Baraderon with Outside Perspectives interviewing Kim Vance. Kim, do you want to introduce yourself
Yeah,
and your
sure.
family?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So I'm Kim. I'm 50. My kids were diagnosed when they were 3 and 6. I have two boys that are both on the spectrum, my only children. And now they're 18 and 22. So time flies a lot whenever you're raising kids who are on the spectrum. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
There's always a new change of life. And I'm happy that you're doing this because even now, I don't think that there's enough resources for parents to
Yeah.
really share experiences. The spectrum is wide and deep, as we both know.
Yeah.
So it's not like a one size fits all thing for any kid, but there are a lot of things that I've learned along the way that I've been able to share, and I think have been really helpful to other parents with kids on the spectrum.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I've noticed that there's, a lot of resources in the sense of like there's doctors and teachers
Right.
and, people that you can talk to about it, right? And then there's kids and they often have their perspective.
Sure.
But I think the parents hold a very unique point of view. So, you said your kids were diagnosed at 3 and 6. What were the signs that you saw, or how did you know, like, hey, I need to look into this further?
Well, and it was different, right?
Yeah.
Because like we talked about, the spectrum's different, how it presents is different. So for my oldest son, Noah, he was an advanced speaker, which is, for him, by the time he was 2, he was speaking in full paragraphs. By the time he was 18 months, it was a lot. He was drawing in perspective by the time he was 3. It was really interesting, but he couldn't walk until he was over 18 months old. He didn't take a step until he was over 18 months old. And then with my other son, he was also deaf in almost in both ears from pervasive ear infections, which we didn't know when he was little. But he didn't speak till he was 3. And I couldn't tell. I knew he was smart. He had 5 words, and one of them was wasn't rhombus. What was it? Oh, it was hexagon. It was hexagon. And I was like, he would find hexagon patterns in ceilings or things like that. And so, I knew he wasn't mentally challenged like that, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong.
Yeah.
So signs, though, that my kids had that other kids didn't have, extreme noise aversion.
Yeah.
Going into a Chick-fil-A playground they just couldn't function.
Yeah.
They went in, they clearly wanted to play, but just
Yeah.
the noise was too much, especially
Yeah.
with Noah. And both of them, when they were little, had really extreme texture aversion.
Yeah.
Extreme texture aversion to food, things like that. There were other signs. A lot of kids, I'm sure, who that have spectrum kids, they're not going to sit
Yeah.
in a circle
Yeah.
while somebody's reading.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times there's a crossover between ADHD and autism, and I think honestly it's a little bit of art and science with people diagnosing, because there's so many things. But I think those are the first things you notice is
Yeah.
you see all these other little kids and they're all at preschool and everydy's walking in a line, and your kid's like this,
Yeah.
your kid's up and down,
Yeah,
your
it's
kid's
colorful.
talking about in the
Pointing out
all the other
hexagons.
kids are listening while everybody's reading, and your kid's you said 3 times you
Yeah.
said 3, and you're okay, not right now. So I think a lot of those things are just more the telltale signs. But
Yeah.
I didn't really notice as many things until they got older with eye contact, things like that.
Okay.
So when they were real little, when you're talking about 3 to 6, those are the main things. I mean, when Noah went to kindergarten, his kindergarten teacher, who was just so frustrated with him, she was an older lady, and she was so frustrated with him, and she was like, he's never paying attention to me. He doesn't look at me, he's never paying attention to me. She goes, but I know he hears me, because the other day I called him out on not paying attention to me, and he verbatim repeated 4 stanzas of a poem she'd read one time. And so those kind of things where you're like, oh,
Yes,
like,
the eye contact.
right,
It's,
but
the way they
also
show attention is just different.
just the fact that
Yeah,
I can't memorize 4 stanzas of a poem that somebody literally
I
just
can't
said
remember
to
what I
me.
did yesterday.
That's what I'm saying. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. So, I think it's one of those things that are the kind of symptoms and stuff that you look for, the signs that just, and I think also just go with your gut. Like if something seems like, if your kid doesn't seem like a typical kid, you know, I mean, I think my kids, especially now as adults, are the kind of kids that, as a Gen Xer, I grew up with. I have many friends that are obviously spectrum, that were just those like super smart, kind of quirky kids.
Yep.
Like just their ability to process data. So, like, you may notice things with your little kid, depending on where your kid falls on the spectrum, that they are just ridiculously good at
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's math,
Yeah.
maybe it's reading, maybe it's writing, maybe it's that they can memorize an entire novel of information
Yeah.
in a short period of time.
So you brought up two really good things, right?
Yep.
I'd love to talk about more. You started to talk about school,
Yeah.
especially in that elementary kind of time frame.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're navigating now. And then the second thing that you brought up that I think is really interesting is this whole like identification of the talents and the things
Right.
that make them the special, right?
Yeah.
In no particular order, would love to hear more about like how did you find a school? Like how do you know if a school is working? How do you hold a school accountable to your
Yeah.
child when they don't walk in a line the way that other kids may?
I
or may
would
not?
hope that, because it's been so many years since my kids
Yeah.
were in elementary school, I would hope that it's gotten better, that
Yeah.
that teachers have gotten more training, things like that, but also, or maybe just to give kids a little more grace,
Yeah.
and an understanding of that. I think you have to be your kid's advocate,
Yeah.
right? You have to be your kid's advocate. But one of the things I like to do every year, and I started doing this early on, I thought it was very helpful, is I would ask for a private meeting with their teacher that was going to be their primary teacher coming up, especially like elementary school, junior high,
Yep.
things like that nature, or even if there was more than one. Ask for a meeting before school starts. Bring with you some materials
Yeah.
that help, that you can leave behind or digitally send it. But basically it's letting them know, okay, hey, here's what his file might say from last year, but here are the things that have happened over the summer.
Yeah.
And here are the ways that I'm communicating with him that are working.
Yep.
Here's what's not working. Here's where I think his areas of strength are and where he has room
Yeah.
to develop. And
That's a really great tip. Like just almost like a cheat sheet. Like
well,
hey,
I think it was, I never had a teacher when I did that wasn't appreciative of it and didn't think that it was not helpful, because it gave them the tools
yep.
to come in, because they've got a whole classroom full of kids. But in terms of finding a school, I think the key thing is making sure that it's a school with a great team of professionals there
Yeah.
to do support, speech, whatever they need. If it's PT, speech, if your kid has medical needs. I have one kid that's a type 1 diabetic as well. Making sure that you have great nursing staff
Yep.
available to you. I think there's just things about holding the schools accountable. I mean, at one point we went to a private school, which I thought would be better for my kids, and for us it turned out to be a mistake. They lost services. It was a school that was selling themselves as being a school that was great for autistic
Yeah.
kids and their development, but at the same time was punishing them when they got to junior high for being disorganized by making them eat lunch alone.
That's awful.
And I was like, what? So how did I hold them accountable? Just going back, advocating for them, and then when they would not change policies, I just had to pull my kids out mid-year.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's tough, especially with kids with autism, but like, again,
Yeah.
you have to go with your gut as a parent.
Yeah.
If you're seeing things that are detrimental for your kid, you need to be able to pivot. I think that's the key thing
Yeah.
about raising kids on the spectrum, is just every season is different.
Yeah.
They literally, like, most kids grow and change, but I feel like kids who are on the spectrum grow and change at a more rapid rate.
Yeah.
The rate of change is is all over the place.
Yeah.
So
No, that's very helpful. And then you brought up, middle school. I kind of dread middle school because I imagine even when your kids were growing up, middle school, because of technology and everything else, felt so different. And I read somewhere like there's this, socially, like, hey, if you used to miss a party, it was like, hey, kids talked about it for a couple of days. But now, there's this constant reminder because of social media of this missing out, right? So, like, walk me through, like, what does that transition, especially for boys, look like as you start
I'll
to get
tell
to
you
like
this. I think it's actually probably easier than it is for girls. My kids could have cared less about social media. Like, unlike, so you're thinking about it from perspective of being a neurotypical teen.
That's true.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here's a newsflash.
Bonus.
I was like, newsflash for you. My Spectrum boys, and I'm just going to relay it as my own, because, obviously every kid's different, but my Spectrum boys did not. My son, Peyton, does not only not care that he does not eat lunch with anyone. He's my senior who just graduated. He prefers not to eat lunch with anyone. He's been invited. I'm concerned about him socially, like, oh man, I want you to have friends. And he's like, I can't be bothered. I have 30 minutes for lunch.
Yeah.
He goes, that's 30 minutes to get into a lunchroom, decompress. It's the only time they're allowed to look at their phones and eat lunch. He was like, I can't squeeze visiting in to that. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get there. Like I couldn't wait to go to lunch and sit with everybody.
The bonus of kids on the spectrum is like, hey, we don't have to worry about them going to
they
every
don't care.
college party.
Listen, they don't care about how they are dressed. They don't care. So those are the kind of things, though, that I think, for me, that you do to advocate for your kids as you go through is more just you need to wait and help them. Just wait a second. Help them with their cues. Whenever your kids go to junior high, one of the huge things is helping them recognize some of those social cues, so that that they do miss. That could be when somebody's picking on them.
Yeah.
When somebody likes them.
Yeah.
Making sure they are your autistic boys are not going to care what they look like. They're never going to go through a phase. It wasn't until Peyton literally was like a sophomore, junior, senior that he cared if his hair looked okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or what so those are the kind of things that you kind of have to, I always had to kind of keep on top of.
Maybe that's why he doesn't like haircuts. Not only is it the noise around his ears, but he's like, hey,
Well, I cut my kids' hair the whole time they were little. They both had huge noise aversion issues. So I learned to cut hair, and I started cutting their hair from the time they were little. And of course, they go to barbers and stuff now, but they're still, they like that mom haircut still. But I think those kind of things are huge. But I think too, one of the things I learned about when the kids were diagnosed at Children's Medical, which I think is very important, and it was like a blip in just the tiniest mention when they were diagnosed, and that was that a lot of boys that are on the spectrum, when they hit puberty, may go through a period of Tourette's.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so they said it's really common. And it did happen. It didn't happen to Peyton, but it did happen to Noah. And so just the tip I'd like to pass on was the tip they gave me. And again, this was literally the most like in and out part of our diagnosis, but it was something we had to work with for like a year, maybe almost 2 years. He developed a eye tic, and where he was winking, and a head rolling, where he's rolling his head back like that. So the tips they gave us were just inform all his teachers that this is going on, and also when you're at home, try not to make a big deal about it. Now, whether or not they have meds or anything that deal with that now, I don't know, but what we did was just that. They said, look, because most of the time, once they hit that hump of puberty, the Tourette's goes away. And it did. It self-resolved. Now, it took like 18 months. And so, but the key thing was the fact that I knew it was coming, could come. And so when it happened, I didn't like freak out,
Yeah.
you know, and think, oh my God, this is the rest of his life. I was like, okay, how do we arc this period?
Yeah. What I'm hearing, a kind of an underlying theme, is the power of communication, of not only like between yourself and your son, but also with the people around, right?
For
The
sure.
people that you interact with,
Anyone
right?
who's a caretaker, anyone who's helping with
Yep.
your kid's development, is just keeping everybody in the loop. Because even at the private school I was talking about, even after being informed, one of his teachers was just very upset because he was winking at her all day. She wouldn't have private. She called me. She was very mad. He's winking at me. She is thinking that he's trying to goad her, like he's winking. And I'm like, girl, he has Tourette's.
Yeah.
Like, that's a Tourette's thing. He's
Yeah.
not winking at you.
Yeah.
He's winking at the world.
Yeah.
Like, you're not that special.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean,
sorry to burst your bubble, beautiful.
but I will say, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's the anomaly, right? Because my kids' teachers have been paramount in their success, growth, and development, and their biggest cheerleaders. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, teachers are human, right? So you're gonna have people who are great and people who are maybe not really well equipped to work with
Yeah.
any kids that are not neurotypical. You know, I
Yeah.
think that that's the case, but I really think that teachers are being trained. I mean, because again, let's
Yeah.
remember, this was even just when Noah was diagnosed. I mean, he was in kindergarten. He's 22.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot has probably, I think the arc of how much has changed in 15 years. I mean, but the great thing is then you get to the end, and like at the end, my kids were doing their own ARD meetings.
Yeah.
They were sitting in their ARD meeting, running their own ARD meetings.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that that's kind of the future of where everything is. But I think just watch outs and understand that when you run up against something that feels like a roadblock, I think remember to do something which I think you're already doing, which is to celebrate what they're good at.
Yeah.
You know, lean in
Yeah.
to what they're good at. Lean into that. Work on all the things you need to work on, but lean into what they're good at, and understand that if you're having a challenging period, if
Yeah.
you're having a period like when they hit puberty, just like any other pubescent kid, you have challenges. But just realize this is not a forever period. Whatever that challenge is that you're up against at that moment, like it will pass.
Yep. This
you
too
know?
shall pass.
Right. But the thing is that the beauty part about having kids on the spectrum, and I always say I won the kid lottery, and it's true, because my children, and I'd say almost every autistic person that I've met, they are just genuine empaths, you know,
Yeah.
just so empathetic, so caring,
Yep.
you know, and genuinely caring of other humans. The great thing is that your kids are going to want to spend time with you way into their teenage years, past
Yeah.
neurotypical kids.
Yeah.
Like, I never wanted to hang out with my folks like my kids want to hang out with me, and it's not because my folks are bad people. I just, as a neurotypical teenager, just could have cared less. And so those are the gifts that you get.
That's
along the way.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. My son, he's been waking up with night terrors.
Yeah, the night terrors are tough. We went through that.
Yeah. So we're working through that now, but to your point, we're trying to
I think
celebrate the
and the tip with the night terrors, which I learned on national television years ago, which was funny because I just randomly saw it. My kid was having night terrors, and the tip was wake them up, because the night terrors were happening every night, same time ish.
Yeah.
Wake them up about 15 minutes before the night terror starts.
Yeah.
Give them a sip of water, walk them to the potty, put them back down. 3 nights of that, a year of night terrors was gone. So anyway, that's if I leave you one other tip, that's my last tip. Tourette's is temporary. Break the night terrors, but
And how did you find out like your kids' gifts, right? Like
they just emerge over time.
Yeah.
I mean, and they change, right? Like they change. Like my son Noah is very artistic. He went to being a person who drew to a person who wrote. You know, and he's really a talented writer. I mean, he's really gifted artistically. And then my son Peyton, who is going into go into urban planning and
Mr. Hexagon.
he's Mr. Hexagon. He is, his interests have ebbed and flowed, but he's been all about horticulture.
Yeah.
Like that developed early on, and so he has a love of like developing. His dream is to develop walkable spaces, and has been, and public transport, and beautiful, combining nature with the human experience in urban spaces. So I think that you just have to lean into whenever
their interests,
and it'll change. Like at one point, Peyton was terrible at math.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't do rote memorization, and now he's awesome. I mean, you never know. So just lean into whatever, wherever they're at. You need to lean in at that moment.
I happened to be with you the day that he was finishing up his last ARD. Can you just share like how it felt, knowing like after all these years of all of these meetings, kind of that finale? I mean, there's been a lot of big moments that have really happened.
Yeah, and you probably saw me getting a little bit emotional there just at the end. I think in happy tears, right?
Yeah.
Happy tears because it takes a village to raise any child. It takes a very substantial village to help navigate taking an autistic kid from being a kid to being an adult. And I think that the ARD system is a great system that we have available to us in terms of offering individual education plans and things like that to help your teachers be your kids' advocate in a system, at least in Texas, that is so focused on standardized testing that it allows your teaching staff, your speech folks, the freedom to have the leeway to give them the tools to continue to help your kid. But I think that last meeting, it was just kind of like okay, we made it. I mean, we've got all of college to go now, but and it's not like it stops, right? Like, I've got one kid about to graduate from college, and then there's getting your first job, getting your first apartment, doing all the things. So, but that last ARD meeting, I'm not mad about not having to do any more workarounds in the public system like that. But it was a very positive experience for us. Yeah. So, and we were happy to be able to cap it off with people that have seen him all the way through high school, and just
that's amazing.
We're celebrating the last ARD meeting for me in a I guess 15-year journey. Yeah. So it's a lot.
Well, congratulations. You've got two boys that are wonderful humans.
Yeah, thanks. And
congrats on
I was like, and congrats to you're just at the beginning.
I'm right at the beginning.
But you know what? You're doing it right, and you're getting all the resources together for other parents, and that's really a blessing to everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, it's been great talking to you.
Yep.